So this is definitely going to be something that gets tabs and follow-ups and all of the things because, yes, that sounds awesome. Also said, never gonna go woke, never, ever, ever in a million years, never gonna go woke. Hello, nerds. Thank you for joining me. Another episode of The Week in Nerdom. I am Dustin, aka Generally Nerdy. This is the show that you came to watch. We're talking news. We're talking nerd news. Honestly, pretty good episode. Pretty all over the place, but all over the place in a pretty good way. So definitely, if you have not already, please hit that subscribe button, thumbs up, ring the bell, do all the stuff. Thank you for joining me. Now let's talk a little bit of housekeeping real quick. I'm sorry if I sound a little exasperated. I had technical difficulties and have lost 2 files now. So this is the 3rd time I'm filming this today. Either way, hi nerds, let's take care of some housekeeping, shall we? Hopefully the audio will hold up because that was the last technical difficulty. So housekeeping for today is as follows. We're starting with shoutouts. We have one shoutout that has to go out first, and that is to Ronnie the Baron, who is a member of the Nerdy Legion podcast network, which I am also. Ronnie is not a new listener or follower or anything like that. He just contributed a little bit to this episode. So we'll get to his contributions in the TV streaming section of the episode. Yeah, thank you very much to Ronnie the Baron. If you want to follow him on the Twitters, you can find his Twitter handle in the video description, show notes, whatever you want to call it. The other shout out goes to our newest Twitter follower, which is Ed. I apologize, I forgot your last name. Teal Productions. Mr. Ed is again, Mr. Ed. You're not a horse. I apologize. Either way, newest follower on Twitter. Giving you the shout outs, working on, while we're in housekeeping, working on making the stream a little bit better. Still don't know exactly how that's going to be coming back as far as my schedule is concerned, but all of the shout outs and stuff will happen there as well. So cross your fingers and hope that we can get the streaming back up. But that brings us to the shameless plug portion of the housekeeping. Again, pushing for social media as a means to get us more content. I say us because you guys are part of this conversation as well. So to get us more content means if I can get the social medias a little bit more sturdy, a little bit more active and growing, that means I can get more clearance to get media coverage for things like Comic-Con and getting in to do interviews with bands and getting in for a couple other things that I'm trying to line up, which it makes it difficult because I've spent so long trying to make all of the technical aspects of this work that now it's time to start making the word known that we exist, right? So follow me. If you can hear my voice, if you can see my beautiful face, then follow me over on the social medias. YouTube, I guess, technically counts as a social media, depending on which promoter I'm talking to or which producer or which, manager, whatever. Sometimes they count the YouTube as a social media. So if you are not already following me, if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, there is more than just the news show up on the YouTube channel. The interviews will go out on these audio outlets as well as the YouTube channel. But if you want early access to interviews, if you want a little bit more say in all of that stuff, then the more places you are subscribed, the more often I will hear your voice and the more I will take note. So the YouTube is Generally Nerdy, obviously. The Twitter is generally _nerdy. Facebook, obviously, as well, Generally Nerdy, as well as Getter is the one that I'm kind of more active on. Also, Generally Nerdy on there. Instagram, we're going to get into Instagram in the gaming and tech section. I kind of active on Instagram. I'm considering maybe not being as active on Instagram, but again, we'll get into my logic behind maybe not, maybe so, as far as that goes in the gaming and tech section. That being said, that is all we have for the shout-outs and the housekeeping, so let's move right into the news, shall we, nerds? Okie dokie! Music. We are starting off with some new music videos. New music and new music videos. All three of these come from new records that are currently being worked on by bands that they're from. Yeah, okay, so we have Iron Maiden is the first music video. The name of the song is The Writing on the Wall. This is the first new music from Maiden in 6 years, which is fairly significant. The last bit we heard from them was an LP. That LP was The Book of Souls, and that came out, I believe, 6 years, 2017. So, no, that's 4 years, 2000... Wow, 15. Anyway, sorry, math. So that is what we've got from Maiden. No word on a new record necessarily, but if they have a new single, then odds are they have a new record. So moving right along, our next piece comes from Under Oath. Under Oath's new music/music video is a song called Damn Excuses. This is the newest music we've got from them since they put out 2018's album Erase Me, which they were nominated for a couple of Grammys for, so that's pretty freaking significant. This one is going to go on the list of reactions just because I've done Under Oath a couple of times on the reaction side of things. Iron Maiden, probably not going to go on the reactions. We can have the conversation about the quality of that video/song on one of the social medias, probably on Twitter. But yeah, so Under Oath, yes. Maiden, no. And then our third one is We Came as Romans. And this one is significant in a different way. We Came as Romans, the last time they put out new music, they had a different lineup for the band. That lineup changed a couple of years ago when their vocalist died. So this is going to be the first new music we're hearing from this band since that tragic event. So that's why this one's pretty significant. So I'll probably throw this one on the list of reactions as well. The next reaction will be posted by the end of this weekend though. So definitely stick around to the YouTube channel for that. Next batch of reactions will likely be recorded sometime in the next 5 to 7 days, hopefully. But yeah, I still have a bank of reactions to post, so no worries there. Either way, that is what we have for new music. Let's talk very briefly about tours. Since we're talking about We Came as Romans, they also are going out on tour. They're going on tour with the Devil Wears Prada, DAYSEEKER and HOLLOW FRONT. This is going to be the rescheduled tour for To Plant a Seed, which is their kind of breakout record. It's I don't know if it's necessarily an anniversary, but they're celebrating. I think it is actually the 10-year anniversary of that record. It wasn't in the promotional material, but I feel like that's why they're celebrating that record. Anyway, so this is the rescheduled dates from that, because that got canceled because of the COVID. So it starts September 29th in Philadelphia, runs through November 7th in Michigan, and you can find links to get tickets down in the description. That's the only tour we have. So let's get into actual news, which is not super common in this section, but we do have something that we kind of have to play a little bit of catch up for with Blink-182. This is, I really don't know how I justified not mentioning this at all, but I feel like we haven't talked about this in the couple of weeks, or the few weeks rather, since it's happened, and now there's been a big update around it. So Mark Hoppus from Blink-182 has been diagnosed with cancer. I think at least part of what I was telling myself is, well, once we know what kind of cancer it is, then I'll have something to report on. But man, cancer is cancer, and that sucks. But so they did just recently, because like I said, there is an update on this. They did recently announce what kind of cancer Mark has. It is stage 4 diffuse large B-cell lymphoma, which happens to be the same cancer that his mother was diagnosed with and also beat. So this is definitely not a death sentence. This is definitely something that Mark can surpass, and he seems pretty optimistic on that as well. there is rumor and word that maybe Tom will come back Tom DeLonge, former guitar player and the other vocalist, will come back for like a show or so. Not going to be a permanent member of the band going forward, but discussions are happening and we will keep tabs on that, but mostly keeping tabs on Mark Hoppus and his cancer diagnosis. Our next piece of news has to do with a new website. Well, new is kind of a relative term at this point because it's been up for a little bit, but I only have recently heard of it. Nail the Mix is the name of the website, and I heard of it through YouTube, and also have subsequently heard in the last day or two that Finn McKenty, the punk rock MBA, is some sort of part of this, is part of the production of this website and part of the production of what they offer on this website. So what is Nail the Mix? Nail the Mix is a website that offers would-be producers or small-time producers an opportunity to mix a large production, you know, a song from a large band that maybe they're a fan of, or maybe they just want to test in a new genre of music. And then, so at the beginning of the month, the producer who originally produced that band releases the stems for that song. And then at the end of the month, the producer does a video and says, all right, so this is how I did what I did. This is why I did what I did, and everything in between. And then there's a contest that, you know, if you're a member of the community for Nail the Mix, then you can submit your mix of that same song, and then whichever one wins, you get prizes or recognition or something along those lines. So I know there's a lot of industry jargon, but I think the big one there is, what is a stem? How do you mix a stem? So if you've seen on the videos or even in the movies or whatever, those waveforms, whenever you see an artist in the studio recording and on the computer screen, it's making this waveform, right? So technically speaking, just at the most basic definition of it, that waveform is a stem. That represents one recording. So these are going to be the finalized stems, meaning they're going to be all of the takes that they decided to use for that one track, spliced together so that it is the take that they want to use on the record, and it's just not going to have any sort of EQ or polish or any post-production on it. So that's the stem. So you're going to get all of the guitar tracks that were recorded. So if there's two guitar players, probably each guitar player is going to have two minimum guitar tracks and then a lead track. So you're looking at about 5 to 7 guitar tracks. And then you're also looking at, you know, something along the lines of 2 bass parts. Probably each drum is going to have its own stem as well. So this is a significant undertaking. Nailthemix.com is the website. If you're interested in learning all of this stuff from professionals who are actively in the field doing it, it looks like to sign up only costs $1. That $1, because I have yet to sign up, I'm not entirely sure how long that $1 has you signed up for, if it's just a week, if it's a full month, or some other disclosed amount of time. That remains to be seen because, again, I have not yet signed up. But because I am a small-time producer, I am very interested in signing up. So as things progress in here, if there's anything else to report, we'll definitely update you on the situation here. But yeah, nailthemix.com. Looks pretty awesome if you are that kind of audio nerd. And speaking of audio nerds, our last piece of news also has to do with audio and not specifically music. So there is a new podcast network in town called GAS Podcast Network, GAS. Did not see in the research what that GAS necessarily stands for, but I also didn't really look because I was too busy being wowed by the list of podcasts on this network. It's pretty freaking awesome. This network was started by Jamey Jasta from Hatebreed. And so his podcast is on there, the Jamey Jasta podcast. There's also the NFR, which is Rob Flynn from Machine Head. He has a podcast on there. Stoke the Fire is the podcast from Jesse Leech from Killswitch Engage, their current and former vocalist. He has a podcast on there. I actually just watched the episode because it's also available on YouTube, as well as all of your podcast outlets. But I just watched the episode with Jesse interviewing Randy Blythe from Lamb of God. That was pretty interesting, kind of rehashing a lot of information I already knew, but definitely interesting to see Randy's journey through addiction and how he's dealing with it and how he dealt with it when he initially recognized that it was an addiction and how he even recognized that it was an addiction. Just interesting to get inside the head of this person who has a very different life than I probably ever will. So yeah, definitely worth a watch or a listen if you're just throwing it on in your car or whatever. GAS Podcast Network. There's a huge list of really awesome podcasts. I am not sponsored by this. I just think this is really fantastic. This is kind of old news too, because they've been around for a couple of months at this point, but it's only a couple of months. It's not like, Podcast One, which has been around since the beginning of podcasts or anything like that. But yeah, it's pretty significant and definitely worth your time to check out, even for just those 3 that I've listed. But again, there's a bunch of really awesome stuff on there. So go check that out. GASdigitalnetwork.com is the website. And that is what we have for music. Oh, gaming and tech is the other really large section for this episode. This is going to be a long one, nerds. All right, so let's just start at the follow-up section like we do. We have a follow-up on Twitter, the fleets that they have been trying out. So basically their version of TikTok or stories, I guess is more specific. I don't know. They're done. It's been 8 months. The project is a failure, and so they're moving on to other things that they have in the works. Apparently, no real explanation beyond that. Just said, "Hey, fleets was an idea we had. Didn't really turn out like we wanted it to, so we're going to move on to the next idea." What that next idea is, who knows? Probably something more akin to TikTok, since that is apparently where everyone is going. Good Lord, Instagram, pull your head out of your butt. Anyway, we're going to get to that. But I think that's the only... Oh no, we have a couple of other follow-ups. So next follow-up is Facebook. Oh, this is where we're going to be talking about Instagram. There we go. So Facebook, sorry, thinking out loud. On camera, always a good idea. So Facebook is starting creator incentives. Now, the details are still pretty murky, but we do know that Facebook plans on spending $1 billion between now, I think it's a week from now is when they're going to start rolling this out, and a year from now-ish. So the end of 2022, they plan on having spent $1 billion on incentives for creators. The official press release says that they are looking to sponsor all kinds of different creators, from somebody who's just starting out to somebody who already has a large established following. They say they're going to give seed money to smaller creators in order to help them grow so they don't have to worry about a day job. So this is very interesting. This also affects Instagram, even though recent press releases from Instagram have been very questionable as well, with the CEO of that arm of Facebook saying, "We are no longer an image posting platform, we are now a video platform," because that's how you excel. Who watches Instagram TV? Chris Howe did a fantastic video on this subject, so I will definitely try and link to that somehow down in the video description, but this is a little nuts. So hopefully they can get those two things on the same page. They can figure out exactly what it is they're trying to do and then let the rest of us know. This is not the first time that Facebook has jumped into creator incentives. They have been creating deals with gamers for a little while, streamers specifically, to stream onto Facebook gaming. That's kind of picked up a little bit of steam, but I still feel like they can't hold a candle to YouTube, and it's definitely not to Twitch. So be interesting to see how this all unfolds, because Facebook is already so huge, and then you throw on Instagram and then all of their competition in all of those different areas. We will definitely be keeping tabs, and honestly, I will definitely be trying to get my cut of some of that $1 billion. So our next piece has to do with an update on Resident Evil Reavers, which is the multiplayer game that was supposed to launch with Resident Evil 8 The Village, but then got pushed back until next week. And now that we're a week away, they were like, oh yeah, 2022, because we're still not done. It's still not up to our standards. Capcom is saying that in 2022, we will definitely hear another update, or we'll be getting this game in 2022, but they haven't said specifically when in 22. So once they do announce the official date, we'll talk about it. But until then, we're moving on. First thing in news is from Valve. Valve's new gaming console was announced just the other day, and it is called a Stream Deck. So it is a portable PC gaming console that you can, or a Steam Deck rather, not Stream Deck, Steam Deck. So the Steam Deck, if you look at the pictures, kind of looks familiar, doesn't it? A little bit like a Switch. So it seems to be it's going to be a little bit more powerful, though the battery life is going to be abysmal by comparison. So very likely it's going to be portable only in so much that it's small and not so much that you can walk around without it plugged into the wall. But yeah, we'll see. Some of the reports are saying up to 6 hours. I don't know if I buy that. But just really interesting. They have kind of said that it's not intended as a to compete with the Switch, but then if you look at the games so far that they've announced for it, these are all games that are available on the Switch, so I think somebody's not being super honest here. Super interested to see how those thumb pads go. They have thumb track pads for like a mouse trackpad. So yeah, we'll be keeping tabs on this one as well as more develops. Moving right along, our next piece, or two pieces I guess technically, comes from Elgato. Elgato is the streaming source for everyone, or so they want you to think, but they just announced a couple of new big pieces of tech. First, they announced their first webcam ever. So now every streamer who uses all of the Elgato audio gear and capture devices and so on and so forth, you now have a webcam option from Elgato. $200. Kind of a Midland webcam. There's better options for cheaper. There's also worse options for more. So I don't know. It's kind of a mixed bag when it comes to webcams. You do know that it's got the Elgato stability, though. You do know it's going to be compatible with all of their gears. So I don't know. It's the security, I guess, is worth a lot. The other thing that they announced is the Wave XLR. This is a way to turn any XLR microphone, so any professional grade microphone, into a USB microphone. And it also comes with the suite of software that is attached to the Wave, I think they call it the Wave mic, that they released approximately a year ago. And again, there's a lot cheaper. So this, I have this right here. This is a 4-channel input XLR or 1/4 inch, so instrument cable that goes to USB. I got this for $100. The Wave XLR is going to be 1 channel and it's $200. So kind of depends on, do you really want the Elgato software that comes with the Wave XLR, or can you survive without it like a lot of us poor folk do? So I don't know, just really interesting. Elgato is really trying to corner that streamer market. I feel like their price points are way too high. Next and finally for video games, we are talking about Netflix. Netflix just announced that they are going to be doing gaming on their platform. I don't know why the dramatic pause, but gaming on Netflix, it's going to become part of the subscription service, so you don't have to pay extra for Netflix gaming, but how they're going to roll this out and how you're going to have access to those games kind of remains to be seen still. So don't know if if they're going to release their, actually no, we do know specifically they're not going to release their own console, but how it's going to roll out on other consoles, or if it's just going to be a PC thing, very much still remains to be seen. But they did add to their staff, Mike Verdu is going to be the CEO in charge of gaming. He is from Oculus and EA. He was an executive at both of those companies and was kind of in charge of similar things. So be interesting to see how this unfolds. But that, nerds, is all we have for gaming. Let's talk very briefly about comic books. Comic books and books, we have one follow-up. Batman 89 has released the cover art and all of the variant cover arts, as well as a few preview pages. You can find link to all of that down in the description. Very interesting. I really want to read this book. This didn't really do anything to hype me up more because I was already pretty hyped for it. But that's all we have for the follow-ups. We're going to move into our first piece of news, and that has to do with a book called House of Slaughter, a new horror book that is spinning out of the book that we kind of touched on last episode called Something is Killing Children, or Something is Killing the Kids. Yeah, children. Something is Killing the Children. Which Mike Flanagan is adapting for a live-action series over on Netflix. Well, this is a spin-off book from that book, and it's going to be written by James Tynion IV. Yes, please, thank you. I love Tynion. So James Tynion IV, co-writer Tate Bromble. We have illustrations and co-creator Werther Deladria. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that name, as well as art from Chris Sheehan. So, pretty significant horror book. James Tynion, you got me there. That's all you needed to say. Our next and final piece for comic books and books has to do with the DC solicitations for October. We don't usually talk about solicitations on the main show. That is reserved for the Patreon. But this time we're going to briefly touch on this because, wow. That's all I've got to say is wow, 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 wow. Yeah, some of these books look like I might be jumping back pretty hard into DC. Just from the basic plot descriptions, the involvement of the darker elements. It is for October, so that would explain that. But I'm interested. You can find a link down in the description if you wish to go see what I'm talking about, and then find me over on the Twitters, and we can discuss specific things that we're hyped for that are coming out in October. But that is all we have for comic books and books. TV streaming, nerds. We have a pretty sizable TV streaming, and then a pretty small movies, so whatever. Follow-ups in TV streaming. Something is Killing the Children. Ronnie the Baron, thank you very much, sir. I really don't know why I didn't make this connection before, but Ronnie pointed out, and so I am correcting myself slightly, that this is a comic book. I knew that somewhere in the back of my head, so this is very likely not going to be part of the Haunting series. I mean, the possibility kind of still exists, however slim, but the likelihood is, yes, this is going to be a standalone thing because comic book versus literature, it's not really, I don't know. It would be difficult to link them, I would imagine. So thank you very much, Ronnie the Baron. Again, you can find his Twitter down in the show notes. Next, we're talking very briefly about Loki. Loki Season 2 is happening. This is significant for a number of reasons, not the least of which being, the crazy timeline-ness that was set up by the end of that season, but also this is the first Disney Plus Marvel series that has been announced to be getting a second season officially. We have reason to believe that Falcon and Winter Soldier will probably come back to some degree. WandaVision very potentially has that ability to come back, but this is the only one officially that is coming back, and so that's pretty significant. Also, Tom Hiddleston recently said that he would love to play Loki until he dies, so we'll see if that happens. Next, we're talking very briefly on follow-ups for Game of Thrones. This one's a follow-up and an announcement all at the same. That Flea Bottom series that we talked about that was coming around, I believe it was rumor, but has officially been squashed. It is not actually happening. Now we have word that there is 2 different animated series coming out. That's all we really know. There's a little bit of speculation as to what one of those series is going to be, but not both of them. You can find a link to that speculation down in the show notes. So let's talk real quick about trailers. We have our first trailer for Titans Season 3, first full-on trailer for Titans Season 3. Yeah, looks interesting. Definitely worth a watch. If you've been keeping up on this series, Season 3 looks like it is not going to disappoint. Though there's some shadiness going on with their Batman. We'll see how that pans out. I don't know how I feel about that, but we're moving on. Next trailer is the new Chucky series has officially released its first trailer. I should say has finally released its first trailer. It's been a long time coming. I honestly haven't watched the trailer yet because I literally found this right before I came to film, but let's go watch it together, shall we? So our first piece of news has to do with the 90s sci-fi series Sliders. Jerry O'Connell, remember, was the lead for this show. John Rhys Davies was in it. A number of other fantastic actors. I was a huge Sliders fan, I'm not gonna lie. But Sliders is getting a remake. Don't know exactly how that's working out, but producer Tracy Torme was a producer on the original series. He told the Masters of the Genre podcast that there is a new series actively in pre-production. So this is definitely going to be something that gets tabs and follow-ups and all of the things because, yes, that sounds awesome. Also said, never gonna go woke, never, ever, ever in a million years, never gonna go woke. Next, we're talking Eddie Izzard, who is who has recently struck up a new deal for distribution. So all of the stand-up specials, there is a documentary also about Eddie. Now all of them are coming to, there's a list. So the distribution deal is with Comedy Dynamics, which puts all of that content on Amazon Prime, Peacock, Spectrum, Apple TV, Dish, Google Play, DirecTV, Vimeo, YouTube, just to name a few. So if you are looking for your Eddie Izzard fix, and I know I am because I love the comedy stylings of Eddie Izzard, definitely this is good news. We're moving, though, from that into our final piece. Also has to do with a comedian. Bo Burnham, the Inside special that is on Netflix that is going pretty nuts, everybody kind of loves it, is going into theaters. Now, originally, when this was announced just a couple days ago, it was announced that this is going to be in theaters just for a single day. Now it is going to be in theaters for a total of 4 single days. It's going to be in over 400 theaters throughout US and Canada. So if you want to see this in a theater going experience, then now might be your shot. That sounds pretty freaking awesome. Congratulations to Bo. That's huge. That's all we have, though, in TV streaming. Now let's get into movie news, and we really only have a couple follow-ups. That's about it. So first one is Black Adam. We have the announcement from The Rock himself that Black Adam has concluded principal photography. So now we're moving into post. We might have to shoot pickups. We might have to shoot reshoots, whatever, so on and so forth. But we are that much closer to seeing this movie in theaters. Next and finally, we're talking Indiana Jones. This is a casting announcement for Indiana Jones, the 5th movie. Antonio Banderas has been added to the cast. No, I did not see the official character he's going to be playing, but that's pretty big. That's a pretty big grab for an Indiana Jones. For an Indiana Jones movie, as if Indiana Jones couldn't get whoever the heck they wanted, but still, Antonio Banderas is just a pretty big name, man. But that's all we have for movies. I'm sorry, nerds. Rumor Mill is another short one, but yeah, we'll get into that. So we have, first up, we're talking about Luke Cage and Iron Fist. So we have a brand new rumor saying that, yes, those characters are coming, and yes, they are going to be in the Heroes for Hire series. That is also rumored. But no, the original actors from the Netflix series will not be playing them, so we will not see Finn Jones and Mike Colter playing Iron Fist or Luke Cage, respectively. Now, this is rumor based on rumor, so we can't go above 50%. And this is also a Marvel rumor, so Feige, reasons. We already know that very likely Iron Fist will be recast as an Asian man, which makes sense to me, at least somebody who's partially Asian, good lord. So that kind of makes sense. The Luke Cage thing seems a little weird, but being as those two series did not get as much fan love as the Charlie Cox Daredevil series, it kind of stands to reason that this is probable. So I'm gonna go, I don't feel like all the way up is necessary or is accurate here. I feel like there's a couple of variables that we're not factoring in for some reason. So I am going to give it the full 50%, but that's kind of against my better judgment. So that's a really weak 50%. Our next piece has to do with Miss Marvel. This one's just kind of a real quick rumor about how supposedly the character of Miss Marvel is going to get her powers in the movie or in the series, which then leads into the Marvels, the movie. So Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, in the comic books is an Inhuman because she gets her powers directly from the Terrigen Mist. So technically that makes her an Inhuman, but in the movies, she's going to get her powers depending on which source you're reading this from. And honestly, I think both could be an option together at the same time. But depending on where you're getting your rumors from, either she's getting her powers directly from just a blast of energy from an undisclosed source, or she's getting her powers from the bracelets that she wears. And then it's kind of unclear as to whether or not she needs to wear the bracelets. I feel like the more likely scenario, should either of these be the case, is that the bracelets are going to give her the blast of energy that is then going to give her the powers. So, I don't know. It kind of interesting. Seems like a plausible, because that's kind of how Captain Marvel got her powers, right? So I feel like this one only kind of makes sense. So because of that, we're going to give it a little higher. We're going to go about 65% likely on that one. Our final rumor for this episode has to do with that Netflix announcement for gaming. The first rumor, that was kind of inevitable, first rumor around this announcement is that PlayStation is going to be the exclusive place that you can play Netflix games. PlayStation doesn't really have anything to compete with Xbox's Game Pass, so the rumor is that this is going to be how they compete with Xbox Game Pass. It seems probable. I don't know how probable, but there's an argument to be made there. So I feel like Netflix would be kind of shooting themselves in the foot, but they are trying for Asian markets. So I'm going to put this right about 50% because there's enough on both sides that you could argue it either way. And that is the end of the Rumor Mill Nerds. It's also the end of the episode, so what did I miss? What should we talk about in the next one? Let me know in the comments down below. If, though, you want to go deeper in the conversation, jump over to the website, generallynerdy.net, patreon.com/generallynerdy, all of the places, do all of the things. Subscribe, whatever. See all of the stuff going on the side of the channel there. You can see all the other things. Click or tap those videos. Thank you very much, nerds. I'm going to head out now. Before I go, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.